Record. So welcome to our fifth session of our community networks training leading up to our Indigenous Connectivity Summit, which is happening next week, if you can believe it. This session is going to be on troubleshooting and resiliency for networks. And this session I think is going to be really special because we have a lot of videos that we prepared for you all. And we got these videos from a bunch of really, really awesome people. Some of them are on this call who were able to take the time and effort to put these videos together for you all. And what's really special about these is that you get to physically see the infrastructure that they work with every single day. You get to see the steps that they go through to address issues with the network and address resiliency. So I'm really excited about it. I've gotten to, sneak a peek at these videos and they look awesome. So a few housekeeping things, please keep yourself muted if you're not speaking. Since there's gonna be a lot of videos, we're just gonna ask that you stay muted because you won't have to speak during the videos. Because we record the sessions and we'd like to minimize interruptions. If you have a question, please bring it up in the chat or you can do the little raise hand function. Like I said, we're recording all the sessions. So if you happen to miss this, you can watch it back and then let me know or let Sarah know or let Katie know if you watched the recording, and we're taking attendance for the certificates. So we will just mark that you watched it so you can get your certificate. I sent out an email earlier today about attendance, and some of you have emailed me about it saying that you've been watching the sessions, which is awesome. If I haven't responded to you yet, I am moving through those emails. So expect a response to me very soon. What else? If you have not registered for the Indigenous Connectivity Summit, I'm going to drop the link in here. So you can register for it in case you're not registered for the summit, but you're registered for the trainings. And then I'm also going to drop the link and the password for this training. So that's where you can find all of the recorded sessions, and you'll be able to find the resources that our speakers have provided. If there's an acronym that you don't know, please take note of it and let us know, or if it's like an acronym or a term, we want to make the language and the information here as accessible as possible. So I believe that is all from me for now. We're going to go ahead and move into the videos. Sarah is going to cue those up and share her screen so we can watch those together. We have videos from an awesome group of people. We have one from John Garcia, who you may have heard him speak before. He works on the network at the Pu'uhonua o Waimanalo in Hawaii. We have one from Don Ginther, Spencer Sevilla, Gerard. Sarah, can you remind me of Gerard's last name?
Beekmans.
Yes, thank you. And then we have Brandon Manali and Allison Mitchell, who I'm also going to do a short Q&A, kind of like interview session with them. And then we're going to open it up to Q&A with everyone, and you can ask them questions about how they do troubleshooting and resiliency. We have other people who created videos on this call also, and we can chat with them about their processes also. So with all that being said, we're just gonna go ahead and share Sarah's screen and have a little viewing party.
So I actually thought I just saw a few hands. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? No? Okay. So John, I think, just rejoined us. So John, if you wanted to go ahead and just introduce yourself, since you were able to join us today, and give a little bit of information on what your video is on, I can then go ahead and screen it for us.
Okay, aloha everybody. My name is John K. Aloha Garcia. I'm an executive advisor at the Nation of Hawaii, and I help to oversee the community broadband network at Pu'uhonua Waimanalo with Brandon and with our team of executive advisors. And so that's a little about who I am. I was born and raised on Oahu, and I've been working with the Nation now for over a year, and I have a background in creative direction, and I do business development with different brands from around the world. So that's who I am.
Great, thanks, John. And John's video gives a little bit of background about their network there in Waimanalo and some high-level troubleshooting processes and experiences as well. So with that, I will screen it for us. And I have had some issues in the past with the audio not going through. So if you guys could just give me a thumbs up if you do hear the audio, that'd be great.
My name is Brandon Makahababa. I am the Deputy Head of State of the Nation of Hawaii. I'm also one of the managers that help run the Pu'uhonua Waimanalo Community Broadband Network. The Community Broadband Network started with a partnership with Bert Lomb from the State of Hawaii DBED Department and the Internet Society. And last year, we had the Indigenous Connectivity Summit here in Pu'uhonua Waimanalo. And we brought together experts and people from all across the United States and to help create Hawaii's first community broadband network. The expertise that was brought here taught our village and our nation how to actually set up and create our own community broadband network. Having and creating our own community broadband network has had its advantages. Before, in our village, we had only satellite internet connection. We had cellular internet connection with hotspots, and that was very expensive and ineffective. We couldn't do a lot of the distance learning that we're doing today with the kids. A lot of the distance meetings through Zoom that we have going on today was not possible before we set up our network. And now that we have set up our network, it allows us to actually coexist in a world that is moving towards distance learning, is moving toward virtual platforms to host meetings. And so our nation not only benefited, but we're thriving under these new COVID conditions. And I think having internet was the key for this whole transition to live in this post-COVID life.
My name is John K. Aloha Garcia. I'm an executive advisor here at the Nation of Hawaii, and I help to oversee the Nation of Hawaii broadband network. We have a number of different tools that we use, including online monitors to check our equipment, and we have a process that we follow on the ground here and also virtually so that we can troubleshoot. So whenever we get a troubleshooting ticket from someone here in the village, either it's Duchess or it's Brandon, I get a call, and we do some initial checking through our Cloud Core app. On the Cloud Core app shows us the status of the network, and we're able to pinpoint which eNode Bs or CPEs are running or not running. Once we isolate the problem and fix it, then we notify our subscribers that the network is back up and running. I think some of the biggest issues here with our network, especially being so remote near the mountains, we have weather conditions to deal with, we have power supply issues to deal with, and so working on securing our power supply has been really important. We have UPS, and we're working on solar power and hydropower solutions to maintain a more steady power supply. Weather, like I mentioned, at midnight every night I'm getting alarms when the power goes off or when the wind is really strong here in the mountains. We have animals. I think like most networks, animals love warm things. We have geckos and lizards that are crawling through our equipment. We have birds that like to land on our CPEs, and so we go out regularly to check our CPEs and do our best to educate our subscribers on how to best take care of their equipment. And I think at the end of it, it's really getting a consensus from everyone in the network on how to use it, data that we're reporting, how to do speed tests, and knowing how to troubleshoot the routers at home, and then familiarizing everyone with the troubleshooting process of submitting a ticket, and then we activate our standard operating procedure. I think that Indigenous people are natural problem solvers. And so when you think of a network, there's lots of parallels we draw to Ahupua'a with the data and its constant flow. There's an analogy of the stream flowing. And so I think it's intuitive, and there's lots of parallels to nature that we draw from our network. And it's also our digital spiritual connection. And so I think that it's intrinsic that Indigenous people should have access to the internet and spectrum and digital rights. And so I'm very honored to be part of this effort here and to be pioneering a new way to connect.
Wow, I apologize for my notifications going off in the middle of that. If you guys could hear that, I'm sorry. Thank you so much, John. That was an incredible video. And you mentioned you had some slides to share?
I do. I'll share, and Brendan and I we're gonna co-host this, and we'll go a little more in depth about what you saw in the video, and happy to ask questions as well, or answer questions as well. So I'll go ahead and screen share. Okay, so Bran, you want to start first couple slides?
Yeah.
I'll flip.
Yeah, I'll start. Aloha, my name is Brandon Makahababa. I'm the Deputy Head of State of the Nation of Hawaii. And if some of you are confused about the Nation of Hawaii, knowing that, you know, it's part of the United States, just to give you guys a little background, the Kingdom of Hawaii was overthrown back in 1893 and illegally. And so in 1993, America apologized for this overthrow. And our head of state and our elders actually fought and occupied lands to get the land where we're at right now. And so we've always had kind of a contentious relationship with the state of Hawaii, and a lot of the corporations that service us have not worked well with us in the past because of our political stance. We've had to fight for a lot of things. But I think building Hawaii's first community broadband network really shows a testament to what we believed in, which was the rights of our people, the sovereignty and the independence. So creating Hawaii's first community broadband network was, you know, a key step in exercising those rights. And, you know, I just wanted to kind of give you guys you know, an overview of who we are as the nation of Hawaii, and that in today's modern world, you know, sovereignty is a political issue and it's heavily contested, but there are things Indigenous peoples can do now, like getting their own broadband network, creating their own sovereignty in these realms that really create a larger sovereignty and really expand. Without the relationship of the Internet Society and Bert Lum from the state of Hawaii, this would never be possible. And so I just like to acknowledge those people and those groups. And you know, you're going to learn a little bit more about what we do here with our broadband network. And you know, I think I'll just leave off right there and hand it over to John, and he can kind of go through a lot of the technical things that we've experienced through managing our own network. So, mahalo, John, for the opportunity.
Yeah. You're welcome. Brandon always sets a great stage for the history of the development. I'm fairly new to all of this, but as a native Hawaiian, is something that I've lived through my entire life. And so the network at Pu'uhonua has been an amazing analogy for the way that Indigenous people connect. And so as a creative myself, you know, I'm in the mobile app space now. We're really learning a lot through the way that we're connecting our people on the ground and how those connections in the village just 10x throughout the world. And so I'm going to talk a little about our journey. And we use a model that takes into account how evolved we are and how much we can move towards independence. And so we look at our network journey from limited to a maturing capacity. And so in the video, like Brandon mentioned, you know, we started off with satellite and wireless hotspots. I don't know if you guys remember Clearwire, but I think I'm not sure if they were 4G, but 3G, you could plug them in and take them anywhere and you could join a bunch of people. And so the nation ran off of that for a while. I think there are about 20 homes, 20 structures, I would say, on the village itself. And so each person had a different level of service. Some people didn't have service. Some were expensive and slow, and you know, it didn't always work. And so last year with the Indigenous Connectivity Summit, that's when we launched our network, and it was a little less than a year now that we've been operating. And so a little from our partners there. So talk about the build out. We have these graphics that you see here. It's just a slice of the networks to show you some of the icons that we've put together to represent our network on a map. I'm a visual person, and so we're still developing these kinds of tools for our techs and for our village to understand the map really of the way that things are connected. And so from concept to completion, I think this project was probably about a month, Brandon, or so, from when trenching happened. And so we actually did the trenching ourselves with our personnel at the village, about 600 feet of trenching for the fiber. We're connected to a fiber backhaul through Hawaiian Tel. And we have 2 bi-cells, eNode Bs, which are LTE cell towers. So these cell towers plug directly into the fiber nodes through Ethernet. And then they're positioned in a way that is a line of sight to the consumer equipment that's attached to each house. And so we have 10 of those currently active. And so, you know, as we learn and grow, it's interesting how people use their connection, and we're still learning and collecting data. We make an estimate of anywhere from 15 to 200 clients on the network at any given time. And this is something that we're starting to experience as we evolve past 1 year of being active. And this is just a high level of what, you know, simulation of our network and its reach. You know, we're pretty remote here in the area. We're right off the main road, and there were many upgrades that needed to happen along this way to really power this remote area of the neighborhood. And so our development and bringing the internet here really allows this entire area to be activated. And so our focus right now is just in the village and ensuring that our citizens have the connection, and to also ensure further development of the industries within the nation. And so I'll talk a little about our troubleshooting flow, trying to make this a little more visual, but 4 steps, really easy. I mentioned in the video that we have an alarm or alert system. So there are different, I would say, softwares that can manage these types of networks. The one that we use is called Cloud Core, and that connects to our equipment, that our bi-cells equipment. That's the manufacturer, and so we can configure in the back end which alarms we receive. There's a bunch of different alarms that we can choose from severe to critical, and we can start to really mold our troubleshooting process depending on what we deal with. So I get an alarm if something's going on. I'll log into Cloud Core and I'll see which nodes are affected, whether it's one of the towers or whether it's just one of the house units that are out. Then I'll confirm that on the ground with someone, either Brandon or someone else who's submitting the ticket. And then I'll try and do some remote diagnoses. And so these systems are pretty smart from our experience. They're also finicky. What we're learning is that they're very finicky, but once they're set, they sort of self-organize. And so a power cycle or a power drain usually is what brings these systems back up. And so these are things that we can teach people in the village to do. A lot of the other issues are really power cycling. They're premises equipment. They're powered over Ethernet. And so just doing an unplug power cycle and plug back in, and educating our subscribers on the signs, how to do a speed test, and how to verify and really narrow down what the issues are. And since we're still growing through this, we're developing all of our tools and communications between our subscribers as we start to take our ISP services to the next level. So once we figure out what's causing it, we resolve it. Many times, I would say probably 7 out of 10 times, we can resolve the issue virtually with someone on the ground and just this troubleshooting over the phone. Once that's resolved, then we inform our subscribers. And so in the future, what that'll look like is a dashboard and just a page that we can put up status of the network. So if we have, let's just say we have 50 people who are on the network, they can go to this page and they can see what the status is, and we can communicate through that page. And so that's where we are in developing our identity as an internet service provider for our village. And so some lessons, after 12 months of vigor, moving from a maturing capacity, now that we're maintaining our own system and we don't rely on anyone to ensure that it's running, to independence and to helping other areas to self-actualize and take back agency of their connection. So understanding your terrain is important. Every network is different. When we planned this during the Connectivity Summit, it was really, it was fast. We had some aerial shots of it. We knew what some of the vantage points were, and it was like a race to get it connected. It was really cool. But that came through planning and through foresight and understanding what the best vantage points were, understanding the equipment load that we needed, understanding the type of usage that we may have. And a big thing that we're seeing now is data collection. Our head of state, Uncle Bumpy, is adamant about collecting data and doing speed tests. And so the speed tests and data collection help us to spot trends to improve connectivity. We notice different loads in our system when people are using the network more than others, and we're still working through ways on how to figure those balances out. And troubleshooting is a partnership. And when it comes to something like internet, this is, especially now, many people rely on it for more. And so this makes it more urgent. But it also gives our citizens and people at the village an opportunity to help to improve it. And so we're all working together to figure out where the trouble spots are and then to work together to fix them. And so the next 12 months, we're looking at really deepening and widening the footprint within the village. And that will allow us to create more content. It will allow us to really spread the word further and develop more things virtually within the nation. We want to solve for some of our environment issues and some of the power issues and connectivity issues that we've been dealing with for the past year. And then improving the subscriber communications, I think, is key in creating this partnership and community around the connection. And then, like I said, it fuels technology and other innovation industries. I think we're on like our 4th app that we're developing in the last couple of months. And these apps now utilize the internet connection and help to fuel other industries. We can teach the keiki, and even our elders, our kupuna, are able to log in, really use a really simple app and be involved in the digital movement without having to be so technical. So it's less about technology, it's more about the technology of community. And that's all I have, Brandon, unless you have anything else to add.
Oh, I think you said it all, John. Mahalo.
All right.
Thank you.
That's it. If we have any questions, we're happy to answer them now.
Great, thank you.
I think there was a question in the chat that I just answered, which was from Mike Edel. He said, did you have to hire people with expertise to operate the network, or did you take entry-level village member and get them trained? And I told Mike that we actually participated in last year's training, and that really helped us be more confident in managing our network. We also have been aided by companies like BuyCells and Mario Triggs from MuralNet. So whenever we couldn't solve something on the ground here between John, Raul, which is our other tech guy, and me, we asked them for their help, and they've come in and we solved just about every issue. We're not experts yet. We're still figuring this all out, but you don't need experts when you have this network of people that support you, and I think it's building our capacity. It's better to learn on the job and on hands, and I think this is a really good experience for us.
You know, to add to that point, I cut a part out of the video where I failed all of my network classes. And so at the end of the day, you know, Native Hawaiian people are highly sophisticated regardless and innate natural problem solvers. And so, you know, through resilience, you learn it. I think that there is a little requirement to understand. I have a background in computer repair. And while I wouldn't be able to pass the test, I can put together a network. And so I was learning alongside everyone else there how to crimp Ethernet cables and all of these things that were coming back to haunt me from my networking classes. But it came into good use because I can guide people who are one, hungry and see it as a necessity. It's a lot like gardening, right? You know, if you don't have to grow your own food to rely on something to eat, then you won't really do it. So I think that was a big eye opener for us as soon as we launched it. I think it was 1 week into the network, we had one tower go down, and so we got thrown to the wolves a little, and we resolved those issues. And like Brandon said, we've had great support. And so
yeah, there was one more question by Lene Jackson in the chat, and it was how was your projects funded? State of Hawaii grants, are you now able to be self-sustained by monthly rates? Our project was funded last year by the Internet Society as part of the Indigenous Connectivity Summit. Internet Society has helped us sustain a monthly rate so far. We are currently working towards, you know, getting off that subsidy and being able to, you know, fund ourselves really soon. You know, it's kind of hard because me and John, we're not paid to do this. This is more of, you know, our duty as part of the nation of Hawaii is to service our people. And so, you know, at the moment we're not, you know, we don't have any help from the state of Hawaii. It's basically just Internet Society and us. And this goes back to the partnerships that we have to, you know, create in order for us to get anywhere as far as independence or as far as, you know, creating our own networks is really hard to do on your own, especially for, you know, a nation like ours, which has to, you know, fully tooth and nail to get, you know, any little thing. So yeah, right now it's just Internet Society and us.
yeah, and yeah, and passion. I think
Love of
that's
country.
it. Yeah. I think that's it. If anyone else has any other questions, well, I'll drop my email. You know, we can get in contact if you have any other questions. I know Christopher, you're doing something similar, or you're looking to do something similar in Molokai, which is awesome, and we're going to chat soon. Otherwise, we're here, and we appreciate your time.
Great, thank you.
Hello.
All right, Sarah's going to queue up our next few videos so we can roll on through them. And John, if you could leave your email in the chat, that would be awesome. And Brandon too.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. And if anyone has more questions for John or Brandon or both, just go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll hopefully get to them later when we have a Q&A session at the end of the video segment. So just a reminder to mute while I'm showing this because I want the sound to be able to go through well, and just give me a little indicator that you can hear. And this video is it's submitted by Don Ginther, and he's the manager of IT services for First Nations Technical Services Advisory Group. It's kind of a mouthful, so they call it TSAG for short. And he's based out of Alberta, Canada. And his video is on physical security.
Sarah, I don't know if it's going.
And I'm glad that we have you as a backup because here's our first malfunction with the audio.
Grab it. All right, and if someone could give me a thumbs up.
Hi everyone, I'm Don Ginther from TSAG in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. We're here at the TSAG building, and I just want to do a little quick video on some of our physical security aspects that we have implemented. Because sometimes physical security is overlooked when you're planning your community networks and enterprise networks in general, so it's just as important as virtual security. So first off, we've got security cameras outside the building. These will allow us to go back and look at anybody that's been coming and going from the building. We don't really need to be alerted when there's people here because it is a public space. Next up, at the door to the building here, we have these concrete bollards. These would prevent any vehicles or anyone trying to come in, ramming us or whatever. We also have a car-proof barbecue here that would stop anybody from coming in. So these are very important aspects of physical security, so that basically only people can pass through here and not any vehicles, someone trying to be nefarious. Now we'll move inside and look at the other physical aspects. Okay, so now we're inside the building. This is the Network Operations Center, and we've identified some of our physical security aspects outside. And now that we're inside, we can see that we've got some very thick glass to secure the room, as well as some tinted glass here to prevent people from seeing some of the more critical infrastructure inside. We've got a keypad here to prevent unauthorized access as well. All of these help keep the room secure and only people permitted inside to go inside. So let's head in. So hopefully it's not too noisy in here, but once we head in, you can see that we've got some additional physical security barriers in place. On the floor, we have water detection coils that will alert us if there's water. We also have smoke detection and fire suppression systems in place to help with our security. Once inside, if somebody wants to have access to the racks, they're still all locked and secured with hardened steel, and without a proper keypad for security or a key in an emergency case, one would not be able to get in. So if I need to get in, I'm swiping the card over here. It's not working. Oh, there we go. So even with the cards, it has to go and check that I have permission to certain racks at certain times, and therefore let me in. And also, it's keeping logs of who accesses the racks and when. And also inside our last bit of physical security, there is also cameras inside the Network Operations Center that record the entry and exit of all people coming and going, and we use that to keep logs for our information and reporting. So I hope you found some of these physical security aspects interesting, and I hope that it's educational when you're planning and implementing your community networks. Just to think that physical security is often something that people think is not as important as software security or virtual security, you know, the hard versus soft aspects of it. So I hope this helps, and thank you.
All right, so that is.
Hi everyone, I'm Don Ginther.
He works for the First Nations Technical Services Advisory Group. So I personally love to see big computers, so I thought that was fantastic. All right. And now, Sarah, do you want to try again, or I can go ahead and keep going on my computer?
Sure, I'll give Spencer's video a shot. That's who we have up next, and hopefully I don't mess it up for you, Spencer. But since you're with us here today, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and give a little bit of a background on the video that we're going to show from you.
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name's Spencer. I work at the University of Washington. Unlike probably a lot of the other videos, the network I administer is on the other side of the world. So I recorded it kind of, we've been running this network in Papua for the last handful of years. And I recorded kind of the video just from literally right where I am. This is how I run my day-to-day. Are things broken? What do I use? How do I tinker with things when it's incredibly hard for me to physically be there?
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cue it up, and we'll see if you guys can hear it okay.
Hi everyone, my name's Spencer, and I'm a researcher at the University of Washington. In 2018, we built a small cell network in a rural Indonesian village, and I now administer and support and maintain that network remotely from where I live in Seattle. So first off, I want to tell you a little bit about this place. Bokondini is a small village on the Indonesian side of Papua. The internet backhaul for this entire village is a 3 megabit connection. It's split between, I don't know, 1,000 people, maybe 2. It's a really small village. And it's provided with a satellite connection through Australia. The network itself is a single cell tower that we set up, and users connect directly to it with their phones. So, because of all these things and some other reasons, troubleshooting our network gets pretty tricky. First off, I can't do pretty much any work on site because traveling to Bok takes about 5 connecting flights and roughly 4 days if you line them up right. So that takes way too long for us to just go out if something goes wrong. Second, this entire community is off-grid and runs off of solar panels, which means that pretty much every night from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., the network's offline just because there's no power. Finally, on top of this, there's about an 8-hour time difference from where I live, which usually means that if things go wrong, they find out when things come online in the morning, which is my evening, and I end up kind of having to work pretty late into the evening, my time. So these limitations mean that when something breaks, I don't have the normal set of tools, and I have to think pretty carefully with what I do have access to, and I can kind of think this through and figure out what's going on. So first off, the way I even know something goes wrong is with WhatsApp. The village and I keep a WhatsApp group to just kind of chat and keep in touch, and when the network has a problem, this is how someone usually on the village lets me know. They'll send me a text, usually just kind of says, hey, something's wrong, could you have a look? And I'll say, oh yeah, sure. Or I'll say, I'm sleeping and I got this in the morning. But once I find out, the next thing I'm going to do is I always start out by using ping. Ping is a tool that just lets me check to see if one computer can talk to another. And so I try to ping one of the computers that I left in Bokondini. If I can't even reach this computer, that usually means that the entire internet connection's down. This happens every so often, and is usually a problem with the satellite company. So this is out of my hands, and all I can do is reach out to them, ask them what's going on. I would say about half the time they're already aware of the outage, yeah, it's maintenance, we're working on it, or the other half the time it's like, no, thanks for letting us know, we'll dig around and see what we can do. So let's try this right now. I'll just make myself a bit smaller. Start up a new terminal here, and I'll just type ping Bokondini. See how this thing goes. The fact that it's every so often you're seeing these little things, it's telling you the time. It took, about, in this case, a second, 800 milliseconds, 1,000, a second again, etc. So this lets me know that, yeah, I can say hi, this computer can talk to that one, so great, the internet's up. So now, if my computer can talk to that computer in Bokondini, this usually means there's a bug that I'm responsible for. To figure out what's going on, I use SSH. This stands for Secure Shell, and is basically a tool that lets me log into this computer that I already set up out in Bokondini. SSHing all the way across the world is incredibly slow and takes a long time, but it's usually pretty reliable. Let's try that now. I'm just going to type in SSH, and we'll just sit here and wait. It's going to take some seconds. It's going over the satellite through Australia, back and forth. Hey, are you there? Hey, can I log in? We'll just kind of keep waiting. Like I mentioned, we're going across the world. Hey, here we are. Even typing can be kind of slow. I'm going to type in HI, and you see that delay. That's pretty common for SSHing this far. So anyways, I'm here. I've SSH'd in this computer that we set up in Bokondini, and usually, just like what I recommend everyone does, the first thing I do, if something's wrong, if it's down, just go ahead and reboot everything. That probably fixes it about 70–80% of the time, and I'm done. If this doesn't fix things, it gets pretty complicated, pretty ugly pretty fast. And I'm usually digging through logs, looking for bugs, and trying to fix stuff in, usually it's a ton of code that I ended up writing myself. Almost all the bugs are usually just stupid faults of mine. And I'll spare you all those ugly details, except that things work pretty well by now, and usually we're doing pretty fine, and I very seldom get woken up in the middle of the night. So I'm going to go ahead and exit this. We're all done for now. That's it for my side. That's how I troubleshoot and debug our network on the other side of the world. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be in the chat if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Spencer. That was a great video. So we have a lot of other videos. So I think what we're going to try to do right now is blow through all of them and then do our conversation with Allison and Brandon and then open it up to Q&A. So I'm going to keep track of these questions in the chat for Spencer and make sure that we get to them. Sarah, are you ready to show the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. So our next video is from Gerard Beekmans. He is a colleague of Don Ginther's, actually the video that we just saw before Spencer's. And he works as a network engineer for First Nations Technical Services Advisory Group. And that's, again, based out of Alberta, Canada. And in this video, he speaks to email-based phishing attacks. So if you just give me a minute, I'll cue it up for us.
Hi everyone, my name is Gerard Beekmans and I'm a System and Network Administrator with TSEG. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about email-based phishing attacks. In short, phishing is a method used by hackers to try to trick you into providing passwords or other sensitive information. One of the methods used is by sending you an email notifying you have emails held in quarantine and provide you with a link to a fake website that looks legit. The hope is that you will be tricked into logging into the site to obtain your password. Here is an example of a fake quarantine notification email that we have recently received. At first glance, it may seem like a legitimate email, and you might be tempted to click on the link to see what is going on. However, there are a few things wrong with this email that should raise red flags and make you delete the email without second thought. First of all, this email looks nothing like the actual spam quarantine summary emails that our servers do send out. Here is a real one for comparison. As you can see, the two look nothing alike. That alone should be grounds for deleting the email immediately. If you're still not entirely sure if an email is fake or not, there are a few more things to look for. For example, as you can see in the highlighted box, this email appears to have been sent from the administrator@tseg.net email address. While this may sound plausible, this is not actually an address used within our organization. You can verify with your own IT staff which email addresses are used to send notification emails like these from. Secondly, if you hover your mouse over the link without actually clicking on it, you will notice a pop-up that shows a website named azureedge.net with a bunch of random numbers in front of it. This is definitely not a TSEG website. If you do click on it, however, and you don't have systems in place that detect and block malicious websites, you will arrive at a website that looks like this. This actually looks almost identical to the webmail system our organization does use, and therein lies the problem. People are easily tricked into logging into a fake website that looks just like the real thing. If you look at the URL at the top of the web browser, however, it doesn't show our company's domain name, but something else instead, like this outlookweb.web.app domain, which is definitely not one of our company's domain names. It is also missing our company logo. These are subtle differences that people may not pick up on right away, but it is important that you watch out for them to help you tell the difference between a real and a fake website. Here is our actual webmail login page. As you can see, this page does show the company's logo, and the URL at the top of the web browser shows webmail.tseg.net, which is exactly what it is supposed to say. So what would happen if you were tricked into logging into the fake page? By entering your email address and password here on the fake website, any number of things can happen. The effects can range from somebody simply being a nuisance and deleting all your emails or sending spam emails from your account, to trying to contact other people within your organization and tricking them into providing additional sensitive information by making them think they are talking to you. Such fake websites can also install viruses onto your computer that may or may not be detected by your antivirus software. You should always be critical of emails that ask you to log in somewhere. Check that a website you arrived at is real and a website that you are actually familiar with. If in doubt, you should always check with your IT staff. We would much rather spend a minute or two confirming that you can safely delete an email versus spending a lot more time recovering from a security breach. I hope you have found these tips to be helpful in determining how to spot a possible phishing attack. When in doubt, IT staff are here to help.
All right, great. I don't think Gerard is on the call to introduce himself, so that's really useful. And we'll move on to the next video.
So our next video is from Brandon Benally, and I believe, yep, he is with us here today. And so I'll just let you go ahead and introduce yourself, Brandon, and give a little bit of background about the video that you submitted.
Hi everyone, my name is Brandon Benally. I am of the Dene and Hopi tribes. I was raised by strong Dene women located in Black Mesa, Arizona, as well as Crown Point, New Mexico, within the so-called United States, traditional Dene and Pueblo territories. So I've been in cybersecurity for about 19 years now, but I usually call it like the exciting stuff, right? The CSI hacker movie stuff. So I've kind of like devolved away from that into like the really boring policy stuff, which is really needed. It's what builds a really healthy foundation to your not only just cybersecurity, but your cyber resiliency as well. So that's what this video is, and I hope you enjoy it.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon.
When we think of cyber criminals, typically we imagine someone sitting in a dark room wearing a hoodie. In fact, if I were to do a Google search for royalty-free hacker images, what do we get? We get a bunch of dorky photos just like this. Fortunately for me, this isn't a real console. I'm not actually hacking into anything, and I'm not a cyber criminal. Yaate, she Brandon Benally Dashajane, Kenya Ani Dene, Nishlon, Oze Dene Bashashin, Onagani Dene Dashache Arotobaha Dene Dashanele. My name is Brandon Benally, and I am of the Navajo and Hopi people. I'm currently the Director of IT Security for a hospital located on the Navajo Nation. I'm here to discuss the basics of cyber resiliency with you. So let's go take a look. Cyber resiliency isn't about having antivirus installed or firewalls protecting your network. It's more about your ability and your organization's ability to recover from a successful cyber security attack. For example, right now, Universal Health Services, which is an $11.5 billion a year entity, is undergoing a devastating ransomware attack where 250 of their hospitals are down. Point is, no organization will ever be 100% secure as long as human beings exist, because human beings are the weakest link in any cybersecurity program. So we have to prepare ourselves. We have to think not a matter of if, but when, but also assume we've already been breached and how successfully we recover from that breach, and how soon can we provide services and support to the people that depend on us. So when you begin this journey of cyber resiliency, one of the first things you should do is similar to creating a successful cybersecurity program, and that is to perform a risk assessment. Now, I'm located within the United States, so there are numerous cybersecurity frameworks that I can pull upon that tells me how to perform a risk assessment for my organization. But in the interest of international solidarity, I'm going to recommend the International Standards Organization's 27001 standard. That's ISO 27001. And that includes how not only to perform a successful risk assessment, but also risk management strategy. So we're often asked, like, how do we start our risk assessment? So the first thing to do is to identify your assets. Assets can be anything from data to vehicles, anything of value to your organization. Think of anything that helps you to provide services or to conduct business. The second thing to do is to identify the threats and vulnerabilities to those assets. Is it an environmental threat such as earthquakes or blizzards? Or is it from a user failing a phishing test or not restarting the computer to finish installing updates? Those are threats and vulnerabilities. The third thing is to measure and analyze those threats and vulnerabilities. What's the impact going to be from power going out to HR's office as opposed to the server room? What's the impact going to be if an executive assistant opens an email attachment that contains ransomware? That's measuring and analyzing the threats and their impacts. The fourth is, how will you handle those risks? Will you once you identify a risk, like, what measures will you take to either avoid it, to reduce the risk, or to accept the risk? That's an interesting one. What are acceptable risks? And again, ISO 27001 is an international standard, a terrific standard that could help you determine if your risk assessment is successful or not. So now we're at the protect stage, where cybersecurity controls are often not enough. You need a solid information security management system, or ISMS. You need people who are trained and qualified. You need effective processes and policies. And you also need the right technology to address the threats and vulnerabilities from the risk assessment that you performed earlier. Again, technology is but one piece of the ISMS. Remember, we're humans. You need an organization-wide culture of information security awareness. And sometimes security control technology isn't installed correctly. I've been to several sites where the client had purchased the latest and greatest in email or web filtering technology and didn't configure them right, and allowed a lot of vulnerabilities to exist within their organization. So that, again, goes back to the training and qualifications portion. Making sure that not only do you just purchase the right technology, but make sure that people are trained on how to use it. So the fourth portion would be detection. We can successfully block 1,000 attackers, but only one attacker needs to be successful to take us down, right? You will need to detect successful attacks in a timely manner. The faster a breach is detected, the more you can mitigate the damage it has caused or reduce its impact. One way to do this is through security event log management, and another way is through penetration testing. Hiring a third party to scan your network for vulnerabilities and try to break in before the bad guys do. The fifth portion is response. You need an incident response plan and a business continuity plan. An incident response plan is how quickly you detect and remediate an attack. Spending hours trying to figure out what to do when you spot an attack can be devastating, considering today's high-speed internet. A business continuity plan often includes, a team of people in your organization who handle things like PR to contacting the appropriate law enforcement agencies. Thankfully, we have an international standard called ISO 22301 that can help you build your business continuity plan. This is the foundation of resilience. How ready is your organization? How prepared is your organization to not only deal with an attack, but to respond to an attack? Recovering. You need a business continuity management program, BCM program. The business continuity plan is, after the fact, and the BCM is the overall health of the plan. The BCM program involves keeping critical servers functional or services functional before and after an attack. A BCM plan also preserves your image and your revenue. So we see that cyber resiliency is more than just, responding to an attack. It's more than, keeping backups, which is all part of a cyber resiliency program, but we need to build that strong foundation. And thankfully, there are standards that exist now that can help you, build that strong foundation, to build healthy habits, to build healthy cyber hygiene, to, strengthen your organization's ability to recover from an attack. And not to just recover from an attack, but to prepare for one. And so again, refer to these international standards, ISO 27001, to build on your information systems management program and security. And for your business continuity management program, refer to ISO 22301. Okay, go on it.
That was great. Thank you, Brandon. Did you make those memes yourself?
A couple of them I had to. The other ones, cybersecurity analysts are notoriously pessimistic in their meme making. So to try to make some more brightened up ones.
That was awesome. Cool, thank you. And then I think the last two videos we have are from Allison Mitchell. Allison, do you want to give a brief introduction while Sarah pulls them up?
Absolutely. Psycho everyone, greetings. My name is Allison Mitchell. Can you hear me okay? I'm the general manager of Mohawk Networks. We are owned and operated by the St. Regis Mohawk tribe. Geographically, first of all, let me take a step back. I love the representation. I think you managed to get everybody from just about every section of Indian country, including we even went to Indonesia. Sounds like that was pretty impressive. I don't quite know how you manage that all right from your closet, but good for you. It's amazing. So we are a border territory. Akwesasne is a border community. We're located about an hour, geographically about an hour south of Montreal or Ottawa. We sit right on the US and the Canadian border. Our community itself has its own jurisdictional issues, as we are essentially sliced right through the middle by an international border. So parts of our territory sit in New York State, Quebec, Ontario. We have multiple jurisdictions as well as our own governments that we work with and through on any given day. So geographically, we're kind of an interesting location, and that presents its own challenges as well. But I appreciate everybody's participation today. I hope you enjoy the next videos. My crew just happened to have a fiber break, and you're gonna see that in the video, and we managed to capture it earlier this week. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and then we're going to be available for questions as well. Brandon, you've blown this out of the water with your presentation. That was great. But I hope everybody enjoys these videos and you learn a little bit of something from it.
Oh, sorry, guys. Here we go.
In the case where a physical connection doesn't allow me to remote access any of our core equipment, we have a Juniper MX10, Juniper SRX 1400. These are big elements in our network. So if I can't get to these remotely, someone or a technician will have to physically come here and console into this device and pull logs. I just console into this and I'm gonna run.
The video wasn't playing.
Oh, it was playing on my end. Anna, do you want to do it through yours?
Yeah, sure.
I'm having some connectivity issues.
Sure thing. Let's see. And if someone could give me a thumbs up, that would be fantastic.
Identify a break, which in this case, we didn't actually have a break. The machine actually pulled it out of the ground, broke the conduit, but didn't break the fiber. But what it did was it pulled the feed to the pedestal on that side, which is about 110 feet. So it pulled the fiber up and it broke everything in the pedestal. So what we needed to do was figure out if from here to the main feed on St. Regis Road. So a way to do that is you take a VFL, which is just a piece of equipment that shoots light through fiber. So what I did was I went back to the CO where our main hub is and found a fiber for sanitation and put the VFL on that feed from our CO, which is about 2-3 miles away. So once it shot the light and it came up through here to this point, we knew that our break wasn't here to the road, it was from here to the pedestal. So this is where we've got our first indication what we needed to do for the repair. So we needed to just pull a new fiber from this point to the pedestal. Went back to the shop, grabbed a 150-foot piece of two buffer fiber, and in essence it's really just a big jumper to splice all 24 fibers here and at the pedestal to get everything back up and going.
All right, so that was video number 1, and then we have another one as well from Mohawk Networks.
In the case where a physical connection doesn't allow me to remote access any of our core equipment, we have a Juniper MX10, Juniper SRX 1400. These are big elements in our network. So if I can't get to these remotely, someone or a technician will have to physically come here and console into this device and pull logs. I just console into this and I'm gonna run commands just to pull logs that will be given to integration partners or another third party, or even Juniper themselves, to kind of investigate what the root cause analysis was of the network outage or the network hiccup. Sometimes this is a little more out of our expertise here, so we'll need to bring a Juniper engineer on, have them get a second set of eyes on it, and then recommend to us what should be done to the network to change this from ever happening again. Basically, someone has to come here and physically connect to these. Logs will be submitted to them, and then recommendations will be made after that.
All right, fantastic. So that was really great to see how it works on the ground when you're physically out in the field, getting into holes and trying to figure out where the fiber breaks are. That was really, really fantastic footage. Thank you, Allison.
No, absolutely. And just to kind of take a step backwards. So our entire network, we have about 70 miles of fiber that runs through the southern portion of our territory, which would essentially be the portion of our territory that is in the United States. So that sits in New York State. The northern portion of our territory is not on our fiber network. We do reach parts of our northern territory through a fixed wireless solution as well. In total, we have about 1,400 homes connected on our network. And this was made possible through a tribal investment as well as a grant from the USDA. So our network has been up and running for about 6 years at this point. Mohawk Networks is, like I said, tribally owned. We also have about 80% of our employees that are from here that are Mohawk and community members. What you saw in the video were community members that have been part of our broadband project that started many years ago, have been trained, worked with outside experts, as well as had years of on-the-job training. When Anna initially reached out and asked if I would participate on a troubleshooting side, I said, well, I feel like you're speaking my language right now. We happen to have a couple of recent issues that we're working through. And for me, in terms of our overall day-to-day job and responsibility, especially as COVID hit our community and the world, I know I'm speaking, I know that everybody is facing those same exact challenges right now. And for a community that has seen an adoption rate that has skyrocketed since we initially transitioned from dial-up only 6 years ago to having a fiber network, any little hiccup in the network is cause for major concern, because we are so heavily reliant on our fiber network, and our community is so heavily reliant on our internet service being fast, reliable. We have seen, just like everybody else, a tremendous influx in our demand on our network right now, and with that has brought certain challenges. So to have a fiber break is something that is not necessarily, we don't necessarily have that every day, thankfully. I thought this group might be able to glean a little bit of hands-on viewpoint of what that looks like when we actually have to send somebody into the field to repair fiber. But on a daily basis, being able to look at our central office, and you could hear how loud it was, right? Like the video was about as good as we could get it, given the fact that it's so loud in our central office, which is just behind our main building. Our network operations center truly runs 24/7, and to be able to have that level of service requires.
The earbuds.
Was that a question? Sorry. To be able to have that level of service requires us to be able to have shared resources. And I really appreciate the view on cybersecurity, especially from Brandon. Having a small community network is a tremendous asset, right? But when you get to the point where your needs grow beyond your physical employment structure, and from a sustainability perspective, when you start looking at how many staff members you have and the personnel that you have on your team, resources are absolutely a requirement, right? To be able to troubleshoot, to be able to ensure security, to be able to ensure that from a cybersecurity and a cyber resiliency standpoint, that this network is protected and that our community is protected. Our students are protected, our small businesses are protected. Those are some concerns that we take very seriously now. And I believe was it John's presentation? I believe, and forgive me if I'm wrong, it was John's presentation where you talked about the level of maturity of your network and your community network. And Brandon, congratulations to you, and being able to pull together a network in with such terrain, with such challenging terrain, in a beautiful area, but such challenging terrain. I understand that we have a fixed wireless solution that reaches parts of our community that our fiber network does not touch. But it doesn't matter from the community standpoint. It doesn't matter. The reliability of our service is so crucial at this point. And the adoption rate has been so strong that we have to be able to ensure resiliency. We have to be able to ensure that we've got redundancy built in, and taking a step back and not only looking at what our service looks like right now, but what are we building for our community for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years, for the next 100 years, to paraphrase and almost borrow from Brandon and I's conversation before this panel spoke. We had a conversation, being able to look at what our community networks will need and demand from us 100 years from now is an important approach to every step along the way. Being able to troubleshoot, being able to ensure that we've got a secure network requires an incredibly dedicated team. Spencer, to hear about your time challenges, your time warp challenges is it's enlightening. When we have to come in, we're coming in from maybe 10-15 minutes down the road, and my NOC technician, who had the scarf over his face, does live on the Canadian side, so he does have to go through an international border, but luckily it doesn't take him 5 days to get here. These challenges that community networks face are very real, and when you look at why are we in this, why are we all so dedicated to be able to making sure that our communities are served, that's a really important standpoint, to be able to take a step back and figure out how, from an Indigenous connectivity standpoint, what this means for our communities. There's no shortage of demand, and I hope that over the years there becomes no shortage of access, and that we continue to be able to work together to be able to find ways to deliver strong services for our communities, and delivering and connecting them to what matters.
Yeah, those are fantastic points, Allison. And you also answered almost all of the questions that I had, which is amazing.
Oh no.
But I want to ask if any of the other speakers or people who made videos, if any of you have any other thoughts, because specifically on how to balance immediate resiliency and troubleshooting issues versus creating, like Allison was saying, that 5, 10, 20-year resiliency plan. How do you balance that? And how do you decide, what do I prioritize right now? I think currently with COVID and everything going on, it's easy to think about the short term, but there's also the long term. So do any of you have any thoughts on how you deal with that?
So I'm happy to take a stab at that. And please, by all means, Brandon, if you would like to join in. From our perspective, right now, our network has been up and running for approaching 7 years. With that comes end-of-life equipment. So that heavy investment that is required, and I know each of you on this call understands what that means. We're approaching some of our equipment needing to be replaced. And versus replacing, how do we really take a step back and be able to assess our network needs now, our network needs during COVID, and ensure that from a 10, 20-year plan, we made the right decisions now. That's a really crucial piece of planning and prioritizing, and it definitely takes a team of people.
As far as balancing, it's really tough because every situation is unique, right? There's not going to be like a 5-person team versus like 1,000 or 1,500 person organization. But one thing I always recommend people do is at least start identifying your assets. You don't really have a cybersecurity program or resiliency if you don't know what you're protecting and why you should be protecting it. So just starting now, keep an Excel spreadsheet going, anything to help you start at least identifying your assets. And then once you've done that, start ranking which ones are crucial, which ones are non-crucial. That'll help you to decide which risks you're willing to take, an avoidance risk, a prevention risk, or an acceptable risk. And so that's probably the best place to start right now, is just get that spreadsheet going and start managing your assets and start looking out for what's important to you, what's crucial to your organization, to your family. You know, I know we talk a lot in business terms, but in this hyper-connected world, you know, we all should be talking about backups with our kids. We should all be talking about safer browsing habits online, you know, things like that. So there's little everyday steps that you can take, because if you try to implement IT governance in a week, it's never going to happen. It's sort of like people asking, how can I become decolonized? Like there's no like 2-week seminar you can take on decolonization and then you're decolonized. You know, it's like I think decolonization is a lifelong journey. I think IT governance can be handled like in a couple of years, but it's not going to happen in a few days, no matter how small your organization is. So that's probably the first step, is to start identifying your assets and then start ranking how crucial they are to you.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Thank you. Another thing I wanted to ask, Brandon, when we were talking the other day, you mentioned the difference between data resiliency and infrastructure resiliency. I was wondering if you and Allison could elaborate on that, please.
Okay, I guess I can go. I'm always waiting for the women to speak. So when Alice and I were talking a couple of days ago, I brought up the point that, you know, when people think of cybersecurity, mainly think of data, right? They think of the like opening emails, sensitive files, confidential files. So that's kind of like what I view as the micro stuff, like the everyday stuff. And what Allison's handling is like the macro stuff, like the large long-term vision stuff, like the stuff that will keep the roads paved, you know, or it'll keep the infrastructure going. So I really think with the data centrism is about, when I think of data centrism, it's, again, it goes back to like assets, like what data is important to me, to my family, to my community, and how am I protecting that data, or how am I ensuring that data is secure? And then for Allison, it would be like more like, how are people accessing that data? Are we making sure that that data remains accessible? And there's a triad, cinnamon, there's 3 letters that kind of go over the overall big picture of like information security, which is called the CIA triad: the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data, but also resources. And resources can be the internet, resources can be Wi-Fi, resources can be making sure that you enter a building when you're supposed to, or when you have the right permissions to. So that's one spot. That's one thing, how I try to view it. And someone brought up a great idea, like a strategic plan. And yeah, you should have a strategic plan. That's one of the first things I did when I became director of IT security for the hospital I work at. They didn't have a strategic plan for IT or even for IT security, so I had to come in and, you know, build all that. And thankfully, I have had years and years of experience to do it. So don't expect that you can go in and sit down and hash one out in a couple of weeks, especially if you haven't been doing this for as long as I have. But it's worth the endeavor. Like, take those classes, read up online. And I shared a link with Anna and Sarah, specifically about ISO 27001, that can give you a really healthy footing on getting that strategic plan going and getting those incident response plans going as well.
Thank you, Brandon. Those are such important points to note. I was talking earlier about resources and being able to see some of the presentations. It's obvious to all of us that resources are not, they're not a never-ending supply. We have been fortunate that I've had a team of people that have supported us taking a shared services approach. And as we built our network and we expanded on our maturity and the growth and the needs of our community, and the recognition that the internet was being used for so much more than just connectivity. It was being used for business purposes. We had a serious need to ensure our firewalls were in place. We had a very serious responsibility and obligation to our community to do everything we could to ensure that from a cybersecurity perspective and a resiliency perspective, we're doing everything that we can. So I appreciate all of Brandon's expertise, because I feel like he's singing to the choir right now. In our position, how we've actually made that possible, if you will, is to work through from an operations standpoint. We have worked very closely with our casino's IT team. So when you look across the gaming industry and you look at the security needs of a casino, we have some experts that are quite literally across the road from us, and we engaged them. They are truly an extension of our team. They're an extension. They are our IT team, and that allows us to be able to have a shared resource that otherwise would be beyond, from an expense standpoint, what we would be able to operationalize and budget. That level of expertise, having oversight, if you will, of our network security. It's been key for us.
Great, thank you. There's a question in the chat I would love to bring up. Ediael asks, can you share examples of data protection or cybersecurity laws or policies enacted by tribal governments that support network resiliency and affirm sovereignty? So if any of the people who created videos are on the call and you have an answer, feel free to jump on in.
I can quickly say that Canada has a data sovereignty law for First Nations people. And I forget the name of it. And once I find the website for it, I'll send it off to you. But that lays a pretty, OCAP. Yep, that's exactly it. OCAP. And it's a great starting point and resource to review and follow. So yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you for that answer. We have about 4 minutes left, so if anyone wants to ask one more question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
I have a quick question, and that's how I'm wondering, given that there are such limited resources, how do you make a pitch to those above you that this is, even though it's not obvious that what the risks are, that it is a worthwhile investment to make sure that you are following best practices?
What I did for the hospital was, speaking, well, it depends on who you're talking to, right? Are you talking to a board, or are you talking to like the general manager? It really depends on how you tailor your language to them. But I always tell them there's reputational risk. Like, what's going to happen if we are susceptible to ransomware and then we're on the wall of shame list, right? Like, such and such was hacked and all their data is being held for ransom. Because that's the reality of the world that we live in now, is that no longer can IT and IT security be just a tolerated expense. It's actually part of the business goals of the organization, or the organizational goals. That's what it has to be viewed as from this point on.
Just to piggyback on that, I couldn't agree more. So as a general manager, my responsibilities are for our company. That really includes oversight of all aspects. So if something's outside of my scope, I view it as my job, my responsibility to ensure that our board understands that that we have a need. And I also view it as my responsibility to help pull in resources as appropriate, to be able to figure out how to how to move forward with ensuring that we are protected and ensuring that we have the resources that we need to keep the community secure and our services up and running. It's not a great answer, but it is the truth. That's exactly how I function.
Great. All right. Thank you so much to everyone who prepared a video and spoke today. I think that having the ability to see how things look on the ground, again, to see the big computers and see the holes in the ground is really useful, because that's all information that, if we were doing this in person, we would be able to, see that equipment. But since we can't do it, it's really valuable to be able to see that online. So thank you all to all of our panelists and our videographers. Before we go, I want to leave one more note for you all, and that is that our last session is going to be on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, because it is on the agenda for the Indigenous Connectivity Summit. So just a quick note, I am going to change our Outlook calendar invitation to reflect this when this call is over. So if any of you are having any issues seeing that time get changed, just let me know. Outlook is not my forte, so I will do my best. But yeah, that is all. And I will see you all for our very last session on Monday, which is very exciting. And I'm also going to put this chat and this recording on the website in the next few days, and all of these videos and resources will be uploaded as well, because I think they're so useful. Be fantastic to refer to them later. So thank you all very much, and have a great weekend.
Aloha.
Go on, Nat.